Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's virtual plant clinic. I'm Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service here in Hernando County for anybody who is new to this event that we've been having every Thursday morning. And Lilly Browning, our Florida Friendly Landscape Agent, is here also. Good morning, Lilly. How are you?
Bill, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing just great. Little rainy this morning. I think it's about stopped though. It's supposed to be really nice later on.
Fantastic. We need the rain.
Yeah, we do, and it saved me from having to go out there and water my vegetable garden once again. It was looking really dry yesterday till I made it out there to water it. But I'm sure it's looking much, much better now. So we're very happy to see the rain.
Yep, it makes the Royal Highlands nice and green.
Yeah, it does. You don't get a whole lot of rain out there, and we haven't recently. So speaking of which, that was the one little thing that I wanted to share and show everybody today that I made mention of in the past. You know, here in Central Florida, a lot of times in the spring, mostly March, April, and May, it can be really, really dry. And it's really hit or miss. I mean, it was really dry, but then we've just gotten 2 rain events recently. I've seen springs where it's been very, very wet and we've had problems with flooding. Not so much this year. So we were talking the other week about irrigation and some of the things that you want to do with your irrigation system to be able to save water, to actually be able to water your lawn, but not waste a lot of water and run that bill up. For anybody who's on utilities, I'm on Hernando County Utilities, so I have to actually pay for my water. If you're on a well, you might think, oh, well, the water's free. I can use just as much water as I want. That is not correct. Here in Hernando County, we have.
Yes.
Bill,
I speaking of such things, I've noticed in my neighborhood up here in the Royal Highlands, people seem to be watering whenever they want. So just personally, as me, not as FFL, I put the graphic of the watering days on a Royal Highlands Facebook group. And I got some responses, but I got a whole bunch of people that hit the laughing emoji. And I'm not sure what that means.
Well, water conservation is no laughing matter.
That's correct. You're right. Whether they thought it's a joke or that their neighbors aren't following it or that they don't intend on following it, I don't know. But if you don't follow it, code enforcement will catch up to you eventually. So
yes, and they will knock on your door and they will give you a fine, and that's definitely no laughing matter.
Exactly.
I've spoken with 1 or 2 people who have gotten fined for their irrigation systems before. So you need to go out there and check it. And you need to, if you run your irrigation system in the middle of the day, if you're standing out there checking it, you will not get in trouble for that. And what you need to do is just go through zone by zone, make sure that the sprinkler heads are all working properly. None of them are broken. None of them are spraying your car, your driveway, your house. They're all spraying water where they're supposed to be. And you also want to make sure that you have a properly working rain shutoff device. So I showed a few pictures a week or 2 ago. That's the funny looking little thing that's hanging out along the side of your house. If you walk around your house, you're going to find it. It sticks out from underneath the shingles. And what happens is when it rains and that little device gets wet, it shuts your system off. So that is how your irrigation system does not run when it's pouring rain. So it doesn't like disable or throw off the settings. It just turns it off for that irrigation event. And then when it dries out, it goes back on its regular cycle. The next week is going to run on your correct day, just like it's supposed to. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And this is a special program from Hernando County Utilities Department. Lilly, why don't you go ahead and explain this, since that's where you work. You know more about it than I do.
This is one of our rebate programs. You do have to be a customer of Hernando County Utilities because it comes to you as a credit on your bill. So like me, I don't get a bill, so therefore I can't get a credit on a bill I don't have. This is one of the rebates, the rain sensor rebate program, and there are rules to follow to qualify for this rebate program. One of the first ones is you see in that yellow box, those are the participating irrigation contractors for this season, which will end at the end of September. So that means all the irrigation contractors in the county were invited to participate. These are the ones who chose to come to the informational meeting and find out about it. Sunshine State and Vance and Challenger have been doing it for many, many, many years, and Greens has been doing it for a little while now too. So you do have to utilize one of them. No DIY installations qualify. Said you have to be a customer here. You have to get your water from us. And there are some people out there who have older homes where they have a separate irrigation well that they pull from somewhere else. They don't qualify either. You have to be getting the water, provided for your irrigation from Hernando County Utilities. Your home and your irrigation system must be older than 2005. And the reason is because as of 2001, it was the law to have a rain sensor on your house. So we're giving a little bit of, because contractors were allowed to, still had some leeway. So we gave it that 4-year leeway there. And you have to contact one of these contractors, ask them to come out and look at your irrigation system. Now, whatever all else you decide to do with them, that's between you and them and the cost. But if you get a new rain sensor because you didn't have one or yours was no longer functioning properly, then they have the paperwork with them, ask them for it, and you fill it out along with a copy of the receipt. And at this point, mail back to us, to Hernando County Utilities, mail it back to us. And then you'll get that credit of $50 on your water bill. I know at least a couple of these contractors are only going to charge you $50 for that rain sensor. So, and the others might be around 75 or so. So just call around, call them all, get your bids there and decide what you want to do.
Okay, that sounds like a great program, and it's very important because these rain shutoff devices don't last for 10, 15, 20 years. Nope. As a matter of fact,
they barely last 2 or 3.
Yeah, the small, simple ones that most people have on their houses are good for, on average, I think they found about 2 years. So definitely worth getting it checked and repaired and replaced if need be. So let me go ahead and turn this off. If you guys need any more information about that, you can just contact our office. You can contact Lilly. You can call our office, and we're more than happy to pass that information on to you. So I see that we have a special guest here today.
Dude, what's the buzz about our guest?
And Karen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Karen is with Hernando County Mosquito Control, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about mosquitoes. Let me see. Karen, do you have a camera that you're able to turn on, or you would like to turn on? It looks like you do not.
Can't hear her either. She is unmuted.
Yes, she is. Okay, Karen must be having a little issue with actually getting on her microphone there. I can see that it's on. Yeah. So Karen, I know, is with Hernando County Mosquito Control, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about mosquitoes here in Hernando County. Mosquitoes are a problem all over Florida. And for a little bit of trivia, every county in Florida is required to have a mosquito control department, and they are required by state law to be funded by the counties. So everybody, no matter what county you live in, that you may be tuning in here from, you have your own mosquito control department. So I don't think it's just Hernando County. Every county has one. And their job is to go out there and monitor for mosquitoes. And I'm sure everybody remembers from when they were a little kid, the trucks that would drive up and down the street at night and spray the pesticides out the back to kill mosquitoes, and people would ride their bikes behind the truck. Not a very safe thing to do. It wasn't back then. It isn't now. We
It
don't
explains a
recommend
lot.
that.
It explains a lot.
Yeah. So don't run behind the truck if it does come down your street. But I think a lot of people still think that the best way to control mosquitoes in your neighborhood, if you start to have a lot of them, is call them and tell them to send that truck over, and they'll drive up and down your street at night and kill all the mosquitoes. Well, I know from working with mosquito control that that is probably the least effective way to control mosquitoes in your neighborhood. The most effective ways are exactly what Hernando County Mosquito Control does, and every other counties, is they have test sites, they monitor, they have chickens around the county, because some of these mosquitoes that bite people will bite birds, specifically chickens also. And they can monitor those chickens, and if there are mosquitoes spreading diseases amongst people, they'll also be biting the chickens. And if they check the antibodies in the chickens, they can kind of keep on top of and keep a record of, do we have a lot of encephalitis in the county? Do we have none? Do we have a little bit? So those are the ways that they monitor for mosquitoes. And
The chickens don't get sick. They just produce the antibodies. So that is what they do weekly testing for. They have about 5 coops around the county at different homes, people who have volunteered. Karen's telling me she can hear us, but we can't hear her. So anyway, different farms volunteer to take on the chickens, and mosquito control gives you the chickens, the pen, the feed, and you get to keep the eggs, and it's a really great deal. And just they come on your property once a week to draw blood. So if one of the chickens tests positive that they have the antibody, the chicken is still fine. Their eggs are still fine, but they get removed from the program because they're always going to test positive from then on. And then a new chicken gets put in, but that tells them, okay, we have mosquitoes that spread equine encephalitis in this area. We need to ramp up our efforts. So that's probably some of our best county workers.
exactly, and they're very highly trained. I know that all of them who work with pesticides have to go through training and get their pesticide applicator license. Our office does that testing. We don't do it right now because we're not allowing anybody, foot traffic to come into the office, but normally that's something that Extension is involved in, is the testing for them. And I went ahead and made Karen a co-host to see if that helps with her microphone. I'm not sure if it will or not. But some of the most effective ways to help reduce mosquitoes around your neighborhood, if for some reason you're noticing a lot of mosquitoes or they're getting worse, or let's say you live in a very wet area or near woods or near ponds, drainage ditches, things like that, is going around your yard and being very, very careful to dump out any standing water, because you don't need a 5-gallon bucket full of water for mosquitoes to breed in. A lot of the different mosquitoes that bite people and transmit diseases, and we have, I can't remember the exact number, it's somewhere between 30 and 50 different species of mosquitoes here in Florida. Not all of them transmit diseases, but some do. But some of the worst ones only need about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water to lay eggs in and breed in and reproduce in. So you want to be really careful about dumping standing water around your yard, checking your gutters to make sure your gutters aren't holding rainwater. Sometimes I know the plastic attachments that go at the very, very bottom of your downspouts from your rain gutters, they're corrugated and they hold a little bit of water inside. That is
mosquito control hates those. Yeah, the ones, the accordion style.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the accordion ones. Yeah.
Yeah, mosquito control hates those. Karen is going to try on her phone, so we still may yet hear from her.
Okay, we're still working on it. Hopefully, I won't cover everything that she was going to cover here.
Yeah.
But...
You can tell we've listened to her a lot.
Well, we
Yeah,
were very involved a few years ago with the whole Zika crisis. We worked with Mosquito Control, and Extension put together a whole program to teach people about how to reduce and prevent mosquitoes in your yard, ways you can hopefully prevent having either yourself or your family affected by Zika. So we've worked with them before. I'm not really good at identifying the different species. They're a lot better at that, and I
oh,
am.
there are so many. I can't even remember. See, hopefully we'll hear from Karen how many species of mosquitoes are even just in our county. I'm thinking 13, but it might be more. And in our minds, mosquito is mosquito, a mosquito. Oh, she's answering me. I was way off. 40 species in our county.
See, I didn't know that, so I learned something new today also. So we got
Yes.
40 of them here.
Yeah. 40 species of mosquito. And in our minds, a mosquito is a mosquito. We didn't know there's that many different, and then they all have different modes of operation. Some are daytime biters. And what you're talking about, all that dumping that you should do, I'm trying to help them run a campaign where Wednesday being hump day, which, makes no sense because our days and weeks run into each other now. So decided to call Wednesdays dump day. And that's a good day to go out and look for all that. There's the tiniest little standing waters. Okay, she said go ahead without her, and if she can get in, she'll talk at the end. But look for like tarps over your boats and things like that hold the puddles of water. The daytime biters are container breeders. So if you're out there getting bit during the day and your first response is, why don't they come out and spray? That is, Bill and I, we talk about the integrated pest management pyramid. Mosquito control follows that as well. So they're going to do all sorts of things before they work up to spraying a chemical. And it's actually a state law that can't just go out, like you mentioned, and just routinely spray anymore. There has to be good reasons. They have to have good justification of why they sent the truck out. They can only send the truck out at night. They don't use malathion anymore. That the insecticide they use has to make contact with a mosquito in order to kill it. So you can see it's also one of their least effective ways. But you're not going to kill daytime mosquitoes at nighttime because the daytime mosquitoes are hidden and sleeping at night. So.
And they're not going to spray during the day because the spray will kill all the bees at that point.
And just be a danger to a lot of things and a lot of people. So they'll come, if you have a problem, they'll come to your house. And Karen likes to tell you they're not there to be the bad guys. They're really nice guys. And they'll come out and they will get your permission to look all around your property and maybe point out to you, hey, look, you may not realize that you're holding mosquitoes here or there, or maybe it's a lot next to you, an old tire, or maybe it's your neighbors and they're going to go have a talk with them. They're not going to fine you. That's not going to happen. They're there to help you. So, see, Karen, we're giving your spiel for you. But if we want to move on to plant questions for now, maybe Karen will be able to get in. And
okay, well, we'll just leave it at, if you have any kind of mosquito questions or problems, feel free to call Hernando County Mosquito Control. They're still there working. They're answering the phones. They're taking care of hot spots and problems. And they're more than happy to come out to your house and look around to give you suggestions about where you might have standing water, what you could do to help reduce the numbers of mosquitoes in your yard and neighborhood. And they're, like Lily said, they're just there to help. They're not there to yell at you or give you a ticket for anything.
right,
So.
yeah.
Okay, we have any plant questions here? Or if everybody wants to start thinking about their plant questions and typing them in, I have one other thing here that I can share with you. This is something that somebody just emailed me just yesterday, I think. And it was a pretty interesting question. This is a magnolia tree. And the lady emailed that she lives out in the country and they have a very heavily wooded lot, and they have a lot of the southern magnolias, which is our native magnolia tree growing in the woods. And she asked how come they've never flowered before, or she's never noticed them flowering. They may have flowered and she just never noticed the few flowers. But this is something, if you have a wooded area or a wooded lot or a large piece of property and a lot of magnolias, what happens is in the woods, magnolias do very well, but they tend to grow very tall, very skinny, because they're fighting every other tree there, the other magnolias, the sweet gums, the oak trees, they're all fighting for light. And whichever one grows faster and taller wins. They get the most sunlight. So a lot of times they spend a lot of time and energy trying to grow tall, thin, get up there for the sunlight, and become basically the winner. So these trees can and do flower. Basically, what affects flowering from a magnolia tree is going to be the amount of sun, the age. Magnolia trees, if they grow from seed wild in the woods like this, it takes a number of years for them to get to a mature age before they can flower. And then also weather to a certain extent. Many of these different trees and many different fruit plants that we grow here, all the peaches, plums, nectarines, blueberries, blackberries, they all need just the right amount of cold weather in the winter to initiate flowering. If the winter is too cold, or if we have a freeze like really, really late, it's going to damage those flowers. And if the winter was way too warm, the plant or the tree might not get enough cold weather. So there's a lot of different factors that go into whether a magnolia tree is going to flower or not. She asked they want to get another magnolia and put it in their yard, out in an open area, I guess, an area where there's turf right now. They want to dig it out and put it in a tree. And I recommended you probably want to go to a nursery and get a nursery grown variety to plant in that situation. Mm-hmm. It should grow very well. It's going to if it stays healthy and it's a good growing location, grow nice and big and full. And after a couple of years, it should flower reliably. But unfortunately, the ones that grow in the woods flower just not reliably. And there's a lot that can potentially go into whether they flower or not. So I guess that's a little bit of interesting tree trivia for today. So
I have noticed it seems to be a pretty prolific blooming year for magnolias. I've noticed them more this year than other years. And I think they're a little early too.
Yeah, and that really does depend a lot on the weather. Yeah. I noticed our redbud trees at our Master Gardener nursery flowered very well this year. A lot of these trees can be really funny. Some of them go on kind of a cycle. They're going to flower very, very heavily one year and not as heavily the next year. Other ones are very particular about how much cold they get. I know for some fruit trees, years ago, I had a couple of plum trees, and this was probably 15 years ago at this point, we had a very, very long, extremely cold winter with a lot of cold weather. That plum trees loved it. Oh my gosh, the huge number of flowers and a huge number of plums that year. They absolutely loved all that extra cold weather. Other plants might not like the cold weather quite as much, especially if it comes really late after they've already formed flowers, because a late season freeze or frost a lot of times makes those little flowers drop off. So there's a lot of things that go into flowering, whether it comes to trees or plants. So I see we have a question here. Did you ever find the name of the plant that I was calling a shooting star plant? I have a picture I can share to remind you. Do me a favor, and if you email that to me again right now, and my email is WLESTER@UFL.edu. And I'll even put that in the chat box here. So I went ahead and put that in the chat box if anybody wants to email me a picture. If you send me a picture of that plant once again, because I'm sure I have it in my email, but it's probably about 15 feet deep at this point, I'll go ahead and send that off. And the problem is all the different common names that we use, things like shooting star, which would probably be a fairly common nursery type name, means different things to different people. I'll send that to the herbarium at University of Florida, and they'll send me back the scientific name and some information on it. Because
I'm gonna
University of
try a
Florida
test.
has information on every landscape plant, what it likes, what it doesn't like, where to grow it.
Bill, I want to try a test for a second, if you don't
Sure.
mind. Karen?
Yes.
Karen, there she is. We can hear her now.
Yeah.
Yay.
Sorry,
Okay,
it
well,
took a while. I had to download the app on my phone.
what we'll do is we'll move on with the plant questions and then we'll come back to you. How's that sound?
You got it. And you guys did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
See, I was really listening when you've spoken before. I was listening to what you were saying. I memorized it. Okay, Susan said that she sent an email on Yahoo this morning with a couple of questions about trees. If you send that to my UFL email, which I went ahead and put in the messages, I get that the quickest. Oh my God, I get that on my computer, I get it on my phone. It makes my phone ding, and my phone dings all day long sometimes. So if you go ahead and email me questions, I'm more than happy to get an answer for you. And then a lot of times I'll save that and share it next week so that everybody will, see what your issue was and get the question also. So Lori said, I just bought 4 blueberry bushes I need to plant. What should I use to amend the soil since the blueberry plant prefers acidic soil? Thank you. Enjoying your webinars.
That's a
Lori.
loaded question, isn't it?
Lori, this is like perfect timing because as we speak, Ashley, who was also on this morning's virtual plant clinic, was in the process yesterday of putting together our class schedule for May. And I can go ahead and mention this to you so you can mark the date down on your calendar. I believe it's going to be Tuesday, May 19th at 10 a.m. I am going to have a Zoom class on how homeowners can grow blueberries. So I'm going to cover everything from the varieties that you want to grow, what's going to be easiest for a homeowner here in Central Florida, specifically Hernando County, to grow, the soil, fertilizer, insect pests, diseases, kind of an overview of what you need to know with growing blueberries. But we can start with blueberries need an acidic soil to grow in. So don't
Very low. Very,
yeah,
very low.
very low. They're very happy with 4.5-ish, 5 tops. Anything much higher than that pH wise, they're going to start to suffer a bit. So they like the same kind of soil that azaleas need. And if you buy a blueberry bush and you dig a hole in your yard, you plunk it in, and your pH is
6.5.
6.5, 7 or whatever, your blueberry will die a quick and painless death. So at least you can, that's one good thing you can say about it. But your blueberry bush will not survive. So to make your soil more acidic, if it is not acidic, if you mix in generous amounts of peat moss, because peat moss is naturally very acidic, that helps a lot. What
Pine
commercial growers do is they use finely ground pine bark, but that's really hard for homeowners to find. You can find pine bark mulch, which is a good thing to use around your blueberries. You can find pine needles. If you don't have pine trees, you can buy a bale, and they put pine needles in a bale for mulch. So mulching with pine needles helps to lower that pH over time. But probably the quickest and most reliable way to lower the pH is mix in generous amounts of peat moss.
And all the time. Because just like when we talk about composting here in Florida, it's breaking down continuously. It never takes a break.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Don't think that for people who moved here from up north, don't think that if you mulch just once, it's going to last for years. Here in Florida, what you want to do with any garden is you want to mulch with something that's organic and it's going to break down. and then mulch more, and it's going to break down. Mulch more, and it's going to break down. It's this continuous cycle, and that way you can add a lot of organic matter to your very, very sandy soil that in the long term is going to make your plants grow much, much better.
And Bill, I don't know if you know, and I don't know if that's where Lori got her plants. Maybe she can answer us. There's a blueberry farm going out of business in the area. So they have been putting out on Facebook, come and get the plants. So I don't know if these are like nursery stock plants or transplanted blueberry plants. So that might make a difference as well.
It does. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. I think it's a blueberry farm that went out of business, and they're literally selling the plants in the field.
Yeah, so that's a
Pulling them up,
transplanting
you can buy them, you can
situation.
take them home and put them in your yard, basically.
Right. Right, and that's different than buying a small nursery stock. You know, buying a 4-foot bush that's been in the ground is going to require a lot of work and a lot of effort, a lot of water, and a lot of lowering of that pH.
Okay, we got another question here that is asking about the Master Naturalist classes. They are doing them, and they are coming up, and they are doing them virtually through Zoom. So you can get more information. I just typed in the message box here. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook. Our short name on Facebook is Hernando EXT, short for Hernando Extension. Although if you go on Facebook and just look up Hernando Extension Service or UF IFAS Extension Hernando County, you can find us there. Or let me put in our phone number also. You can go ahead and call our office, and Teresa is more than happy to answer the phone, and she can get you all that information. I don't handle the Master Naturalist program. Our Marine Sea Grant agent, Brittany Hall-Sharf, takes care of that, but she does have all that information online, everything you need to know about what the classes cover, how to go about signing up, what you're going to need for it. And I know that that's a very popular class. We always get a lot of questions about that. So let me go ahead and answer one more question here, and then Karen, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you. You should be able to turn your microphone back on.
I'll turn her on.
Okay. Lilly can handle that. You have the
Okay.
power to handle that. So I like to grow
So-
mini sweet peppers in my lanai. Any beginners?
Oh, there she is. Look, we can see her.
Hey, boy, we've got a camera. We're styling here. She's figured out the technology. So one quick question here. Let me go ahead and answer this. Mini sweet peppers on a lanai. So I guess you're going to be growing them in a container. And peppers do really well in a container. Pepper plants tend to get fairly large, so you're going to want a container that's going to hold about a 5-gallon container. So a 1-gallon pot, the plant's going to outgrow. It's going to be too small. But you can grow peppers all the way through to maturity in 5-gallon pots. You can start them from seeds right now, or you can buy the small plants. We're getting pretty well into spring technically here. And your pepper plants, if you're going to put them in the garden, should already be there. And they should be a good foot or tall high. They should be ready to flower really soon. Peppers can survive the summer, but what happens is for a couple months in the heat of summer, they don't make peppers. They might flower, but it's so hot that it destroys the pollen in the flowers, and they're not going to set little baby peppers. But if you keep those plants alive and growing, what happens in August or September, the days get a little bit shorter. Eventually it cools off, and now those nice big pepper plants are going to flower and get a whole bunch of peppers on them. So starting peppers now and hopefully getting some soon this spring is a great way to go. Or if you're just starting them from seed, you won't probably get any peppers this summer, but be patient, keep the plant going, take good care of it in lanai, let it get bigger and bigger and bigger, and this fall you're going to be all set to boom, all of a sudden you're going to get a whole bunch of flowers and a bunch of peppers. So Karen, let me go ahead and turn it over to Karen with Hernando County Mosquito Control, and we'll let Lily turn her back on, or
There she
yeah, her
goes.
microphone back on
All
there.
right.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you.
I can
All
hear you.
right. Sorry about that. I had to download it onto my phone and it took a little bit of time to get it there.
Yeah.
But you guys did an awesome job. You pretty much covered everything that I usually go over. I did want to definitely specify that our guys are working through this out in the field. We do ask if you call for a service request, that our guys won't have contact with you. They will do their inspection, and if there's any information they need to share with you, they will either leave a tag on the door or us in the office will call you for any details. We're trying to do the, social distancing. Yes. So we are still out there. The guys are working. Chickens are in the field. Everything is the usual. We are seeing a lot of containers on properties. Most of our service calls that we're going out on have some sort of container breeding going on. So if you can just look in things that maybe aren't the obvious, I think people tend to look in the same obvious spots, but I guess it's the things they're not realizing are there. But that is the majority of our calls at this time. The rain is starting to come now, so it will get busier. We do have our mosquito fish that are doing a great job. If anybody has ponds, lakes, most of them already have the fish in them. However, I understand that those birds tend to snack on them, so it depletes some of our supply. We do breed them at our office, so we always have them in hand, and if those are needed, we'll be more than happy to bring them out to you. And again, we cannot do a face-to-face meeting, so when you call to request them, just let us know where you want them placed, and our guys will put them right in there for you.
For free.
Yes, they are free.
Yeah.
And our services, when we are called out to your residence, there is no charge for that as well. That is our service to Hernando County to be certain that everyone is kept safe and free from any diseases that the mosquitoes may carry.
Speaking of which, since you're here, do mosquitoes spread COVID-19?
No, they do not. I've read quite a bit on the research that's been done, and they have found no correlation between COVID-19 and mosquitoes carrying that. It's the same as with a lot of the other diseases like HIV and that type thing that are not carried through that as well. So we have no fear to have mosquitoes carrying COVID-19. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. They do cause problems, but that is not one of them.
The
Yes.
only two things our county sees through, normally is a triple E and a West Nile virus. And we're really on top of monitoring for that. We've had a couple of really low years where we've seen very little exposure to those two diseases, but we do monitor that weekly to make sure that we're at check there.
Okay.
All right.
And what if, say your neighbor has a gross, disgusting, uncared for pool and they've
Okay.
left in an abandoned house?
Unfortunately, we do have some of those here in Hernando County. We cannot make them look pretty, but what we do, if you do have a problem with a neighbor, just give us a call. We do put fish in those swimming pools, and the fish will maintain the larvae and prevent the mosquitoes from breeding in the pool, providing we have access to it. So if we can get in there, we will put fish in there. Sometimes the pools are green and yucky and people are living there. They're just not able to maintain their filter at this time for whatever, they can't afford it, or it's just,
Which
they're
might
not
be
healthy.
happening more in the future.
Yes. And if they have that problem, we ask that they call even and let us know so that we can put the fish in there. And then the fish will, like I said, they'll eat the mosquito larvae. They will keep that from breeding, from a breeding ground.
So then when
if
they're ready
anyone
to
has that-
restart their pool and clean it up and get a new filter and all that, will you come and retrieve the fish out of
Yes,
it?
we do.
Okay.
We retrieve as many as we can get out of there. They are very small fish. They're only about an inch and a half long. They're like a guppy style fish, so they breed well. We put a few in there and they will multiply, and they're really good at eating the larvae. They eat up to, I believe it's 100 to 300 a day. So they can keep up with the demand. And so if someone is hitting a hard time in their life and they're not able to keep their filter running, just give us a call. Our guys will be more than happy. We'll come out. We'll check on them every few months just to make sure that birds or anything else haven't disposed of them. And we'll make sure that it's keeping the neighborhoods from being a mosquito breeding.
Well, let's talk about a few things where you and I kind of, what I do compared to with what you do. Let's talk, tell me about bird baths. What do you feel about bird baths?
Okay, bird baths are fine. We're not against the bird bath. However, if you're going to keep a bird bath, you need to make sure that you flush it and brush it weekly. Even if the water evaporates, those eggs are still there. So either flush it with the hose and give it just a quick brush around to get those eggs off of there about once a week, and you should be fine. I found that the bottoms of the flower pots are really not needed.
The saucers, yes.
The saucers. So if you have it on a patio that you just don't want it to, the dirt or whatever to come out, you could get little feet and just elevate that pot off the ground to avoid any mold or mildew under there and let the water just drain out. It's a lot better than having a little pool of larvae under there.
Yeah, we're in agreement on that for sure. I don't understand what the purpose of the pot saucers exactly are, unless you have like houseplants like African violets, which
they drink from the bottom.
Yeah, but
yes.
For outside, they're building. You know of any reason we should have those little saucers in pots other than to attract mosquitoes?
If the saucers fill up, well, depending on the type of soil you have in the pot, the water in the saucer can act as a little bit of a reservoir for the soil to suck the water back up. But as a general rule, whether it's a case of plants where you have to water it or sitting all the way outdoors where it's getting rained on, normally we get enough rain where you really don't need a saucer under the plant. Right. It can be a way of keeping things cleaner also. Let's say you have a potted plant that's sitting on a nice table, and when you water it, you don't want the water to just come out and go all over the table and take mud and dirt with it. It can keep things cleaner. But if you do have a little saucer under it, you want to dump the water out that's in it pretty diligently, because that's a really good spot for mosquitoes to be breeding in.
Yes.
We have a question here of natural ways to prevent or inhibit mosquitoes. Karen, that's a good question, because I know there's a lot of silly and information out there that doesn't necessarily work.
I hear a lot of things. I can't really tell you that it doesn't work. If it works for some, I hear of dryer sheets in their pockets, Skin So Soft. I hear a lot that's helpful. I hear some people use plants. There are certain plants, and they say that like lemongrass and such, the mosquitoes don't care for it, but they get used to it really quick. So initially it might hold them back for a little tiny bit, but then they get really used to the smell of it, and they're right there with it. We do recommend, if you're going to be out and about, make sure you have long sleeves, long pants, which isn't always easy in the summer. Spray anything with DEET. And we're also finding a really good thing with picaridin. People are saying that it's working well with no-see-ums, which is something that's probably just as much of a nuisance in Florida. So any kind of repellent with picaridin or DEET is really your surefire. But like I said, I do get people who make essential oil blends, and if it works for them, that's great. But as far as in reading anything that's guaranteed, I don't ever see it.
Yeah, and bug zappers, from what I've heard, they just kill all the bugs, not just.
Yeah, it does. They kill all the bugs, and sometimes it attracts them. You might be pulling from your neighbors.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, the big one. What about bromeliads?
Oh, bromeliads. They're not our friends.
Talk to a gardening group.
I know. They're beautiful plants, and they are okay to use, to have. However, that's another thing. You either want to flush them out with the hose, or they also have, they're called dunks, mosquito dunks or granules, and you can put a granule in there and it will maintain the larvae. It's a larvicide. It won't bother anything but the mosquito. It actually is a bacterial product. So you can even use that in a bird bath. You can use that sprinkled in the bromeliads, being they do hold quite a bit of water at the base. And if they sell those at the regular box stores, they're not expensive and you can crumble them. They come in little like donuts. So if you break them up, you can just spread them like you would a granule over your bromeliads.
Yeah, I know there's at least one brand that you can get a container of it and it's already ground up.
Yes, that's the same brand. They're called Bits,
Yep.
but I don't see them in the stores.
Oh,
Did you?
I got my container, it was a couple years ago.
Okay.
That's probably going to vary a little bit store by store, depending on which one you go to. They don't all carry the same thing.
Okay.
But I
And
know the dunks are very popular if you have horses to put in the horse troughs.
Yes.
And containers of water that you have to have. But
Yes, as a matter of fact, people,
ground granules, people sprinkle and throw on their bromeliads.
Yeah.
Well.
yes. And people are even using the fish if they have large animal troughs.
Uh-huh.
If they have troughs that can't be dumped because they're very large, we can put some fish in there. And the fish will just swim down to the bottom when the animals will drink, just like they would a shallow pond.
The product they're referring to, Edwina's asking, I don't know the brand name, but it would be BT.
It's a BTI, yeah.
Yeah, BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think
Dr.
so.
Lester?
You say it better than me.
Yes, Bacillus thuringiensis, and it's Israeliensis is the variety.
Israeliensis. That's
There's
where
a
you're
BT
getting the
that kills
eye.
mosquitoes, a different BT that kills beetles, and a different BT that kills caterpillars.
Okay, so you want the one with the eye for the mosquitoes.
Correct.
And we don't know the brand name, do we? But that's the ingredient in it anyway.
Yeah, if you look for, it's going to say mosquito dunks on the package, and you should be able to Google that, look it up online. I'm sure you can get it from Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
if
I
you
know
have a
they
rain
have
barrel,
them.
you can throw some in your rain barrel. Although Karen and I have agreed, Karen has never gotten any complaints on let's say a well-maintained rain barrel. If there's been
Correct.
open barrels out in a field for years, they've got complaints about that. But rain barrels near your house, near your downspout with a lid, they don't get mosquito complaints about that.
Yeah, and if you get, if you have that fine mesh screen over your top, it usually is sufficient to prevent that.
And, if you don't ignore it, if you're actively using it.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Okay.
Okay, well, I need to go in a few minutes. I have another meeting that I have to go to. Busy here. Karen,
Getting
anything else
direction.
about mosquitoes?
I would just really like to thank you for letting me join your group today, and hopefully I've answered some questions. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to call our office. I'll do our phone number here real quick. It's 352-540-6552. We also have our Facebook page as well as our website through the county. So feel free to contact us with any information, requests, or anything that you're in need of. And thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you. We're going to try to get a different guest star here every week. So everybody, please be sure to join us once again next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. I'll be here. My co-host Lilly should be here or somewhere.
As far as I know. Yes. As far as I know, unless I happen to be moving back into the building at that exact moment in time. But as far as I know, I'll be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be here also. So we'll have another guest host in here again next week. And like I always say, if you have any questions or problems, feel free to contact us. You can call the office and Teresa will answer and she'll try to help you, or forward it to me, or you could email me pictures. I think I got some pictures from all of you today. So I'll go ahead and look those over and figure that out. And we'll go ahead and show them next week and I'll answer your questions, because by then I'll have the answers if I don't know them off the top of my head. So gives me a week to work on it. So with that, everybody, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, and everybody stay safe out there.
Have a good day.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
you
Thanks.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.